and having a good grill rub. In Nigeria, there's a dish called suya, which are typically made with beef, like really, really thin beef that's heavily coated in this grill rub, which is peanuts and chili and ginger. And when you read the ingredient list, like onion powder, garlic, it's stuff that you most certainly have in your pantry. If anything, you're just buying the peanuts. You just chuck it all in the blender, pulse it up, and that on any meat. We just had it last night on some lamb skewers. Just have some sprouts, have some spice blend, just delicious things you can put on whatever.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the show. If you're in need of some summer cooking inspiration, you are in the right place. Today, I'm speaking with Kiano Moju, a Kenyan-Nigerian American chef and author of AfriCali, which was named one of the best cookbooks of 2024 by the New York Times, Bon Appétit, and the Los Angeles Times. Kiano describes her approach to cooking, which is informed by her Kenyan and Nigerian heritage, as well as her childhood growing up in California. Really, her cooking philosophy boils down to simplicity and flavor. As you'll hear, I have tagged so many of the recipes in her cookbook. And in fact, one of those recipes is the Cauliflower Bhajias, which are these crispy fried cauliflower nuggets that just happen to be gluten-free. And Kiano has shared that recipe in this week's newsletter. So I'll include a link so you can hop over there and get that. We actually ended up chatting for so long after we stopped recording. I kind of wish we had just kept recording, talking about some of the other recipes in her cookbook and about life. And one thing I'm really excited to try this weekend is the chicken poussin sauce. I'm going to toss that with smoked chicken wings. So I'll report back about that. Speaking of summer cooking, Kiano shares 2 tips that are going to revolutionize your meals this season. These are honestly the best tips for bringing more ease and flavor to the summer table. And finally, we get into the topic of thriving, which, as you know, I have been kind of obsessed with this topic all season. Kiano shares what thriving means to her and how a super simple shift helped her to find more thriving when it comes to the work she does. We all have the capacity to create more thriving in our lives. And sometimes, you guys, it's the smallest of shifts that can help get us there. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support it. This is an ad-free space. It could not happen without community support. You can like it. You can share it. You can become a subscriber to the Mind, Body, Spirit, Food newsletter, where I share brand new weekly recipes, dive into some of these topics deeper. And if you become a paid subscriber for just a few bucks a month, you make all of this work possible. It couldn't happen without paid support. As a paid subscriber, you get access to all of the recipes, bonus content, free cooking classes, a whole bunch of fun perks, and you have my undying love and affection. All right, my friends, let's get into the show. Hi, Kiano. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to talk with you today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to start by asking you the first question I ask all of my guests, and that is, what is your cultural upbringing and how has that influenced your relationship to food?
So I grew up in Northern California in the Bay Area. Mom is from Kenya, so far side of East Africa, and dad is from Nigeria, almost far side of West Africa. So a lot of different cultures to grow up with in the household. And then, of course, the Bay Area just has everything. So I've been very lucky to have like a really strong foundation, especially with my maternal culture, because I would spend every other summer vacation in Kenya on my grandparents' ranch. But gosh, you get exposed to so much growing up in the Bay Area. So yeah, a little bit of everything.
That's such a diverse background when it comes to food. I'm wondering for you, what are some of the flavors that speak to you of home?
Ooh, so when I think of home, I'm really thinking of Oakland, Berkeley, because I lived in Oakland, but never went to school in Oakland, which is interesting. As somewhere else, like elementary school was in Berkeley. And gosh, it was a mix. It would be tuna melts from the soda fountain, burgers from Smokehouse, Ethiopian food from Asmara, Vietnamese clay pot, and then on weekends when my mom would cook, because Monday through Friday, it was what can she put together in 10 minutes and shove in the oven. It was very practical driven, maybe not as all the food on the weekend got the TLC, and she would make dishes. So yeah, we were eating everything throughout the week, and my mom always been a very open eater. So if she saw a new spot, we were trying it. So when a new Afghani restaurant opened, she's like, oh, let's give that a try.
Wow. For those who are not familiar with the dishes of Kenya that your mom cooked, that influenced so many of the stories in your cookbook, what are those flavors like?
So Kenyan food is not heavily exported, so I don't guilt people for having never tried it. It's hard to find Kenyan restaurants. I've never lived in a city that's had a Kenyan restaurant myself. So for folks who've never had Kenyan food, I like to say flavor-wise, flavor combination-wise, we lie on a spectrum between Mexican cuisine and Indian cuisine, which are opposite sides of the planet. But when you think of core ingredients and how we treat it, like Kenya has a big roasted, grilled barbecue meat culture. Not in the barbecue way we understand in the US. Like there's no sauces, maybe like a little marinade, maybe a spice rub, but it's very, red meat forward, a lot of grilling. We use tomato salad called kachumbari, goes with like anything grilled, which is essentially pico de gallo. They're the same. And the exact same thing, except where we slice the tomatoes instead of dice them. Cornmeal has a big presence. We have a dish called ugali. So it's white cornmeal. So same as you would use for polenta, but polenta people are used to yellow. So white cornmeal cooked until firm. So the way your polenta looks the next day, we'll cook it that way. And that is an accompaniment most Kenyans are having multiple nights a week. But then we have dishes like chapati, samosas, chai, things that associate with Indian cuisine as well.
Yeah.
Because we're on East Africa, off the Indian Ocean. So from trade, from post-colonial, because the Brits brought Indian rail workers to Kenya, we have a big influence from that part of the world in our cuisine. So yeah, if you like Mexican food and you like Indian food, you will very much love Kenyan food.
I already know I would love it. Your mom, it sounds like, played a big influence in your love of food. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, she very much saw my interest in food and, nurtured it. She hates cooking.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so funny.
She hates it. She's the eldest of 17 children.
Wow.
So it's a chore for her.
Yeah, sure.
Never will be anything more or less than a chore. So when she saw my interest in cooking, because, some parents who are like very into cooking, they don't want to be bothered. Get out of my shoo. She was like, welcome. Do what you want. Take it over. It's your space. Because she literally did not care for it. So she saw my interests. I really wanted to learn. As a kid, I would ask a lot of questions, and she's just looking at me like, I need to get this dinner done so I can relax.
Yeah.
So what she ended up doing was she found kids cooking classes across the Bay Area, including like a summer-long cooking camp. And anytime there's a cooking program, she would put me in it. So she saw my interest and she was like, I love this for you. It will not be me teaching you.
Yeah.
But she very much helped fund my passion.
It's so interesting because when I was reading that story in your book, it was like I grew up similarly in the sense that I always had this passion for it. And it's like, where did it come from? I didn't grow up at the apron strings of my mom. My mom had a full-time job. She didn't mind cooking, but it was definitely something she had to do. And it's only now in retirement that she, I think, finds joy in the process of cooking. And yeah, like as a kid, I was so intrigued from it. Like for as long as I can remember, flavor and food, they just became this source of inspiration and passion and artistic creativity for me. And so it's so interesting to think about that, like where that comes from. And for you, what's really interesting is that you grew up in a city in Northern California and had all of these travel experiences. I grew up in the Midwest, so I didn't travel a lot, but having all of that exposure to different flavor, to different culture, was there any point? I'm asking this question because I've talked to a number of guests who grew up with immigrant parents who at some point resisted their heritage. I don't get that sense from you. Did you ever go through a stage where you were like, I don't want to deal with these Kenyan flavors. I just want full on American
No,
food?
I think there's probably two reasons for that. One is the timing of my mom's immigration here. She came to this country as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I have, my mom, and she is very Kenyan, but because she had all of her adult years in this country, that's when, a lot of people are still figuring out cooking. Her home cooking was a bridge. The recipe of my mom's in my cookbook is a steak with capers and Dijon mustard. It isn't Kenyan at all. But it's something that she learned within her first year being in this country. And, it became part of her cooking repertoire. So even though my parents are from another country, because even my dad, he came here for college, they came here so young. There's a certain part of American culture in my household. I didn't grow up in the household where inside felt like one country and outside felt like another. My household itself was already a bridge between two cultures. And then I think from spending those summers in Kenya, really, really young, I had a deep exposure to my culture where my brain was too young to feel like any of it was othered.
Yeah.
It was just more food. This is how grandma did it. I still don't know why, because my grandma's kitchen was traditional, meaning cooking starts with gathering firewood. Putting together a stove using stones. And so it's a very different way of cooking. It's rural, it's pre-electricity, there's none of that on the ranch that I used to visit. My mom has now put a kitchen in there. Before it was a traditional everything. And because I started spending summers when I was 6, at 6, you're still a sponge. I didn't question. And we spent every other summer holiday there. So I grew up with both cultures really closely.
Yeah, it was a pure embodiment for you. That makes so much sense. I had a recent podcast episode with Zainab Issa, and her cookbook is called Third Culture Cooking. And your book, in a way, reminds me of that because it's not like it's just, your Kenyan recipes that you love growing up or the California recipes that you grew up with in America. It's really your own. These recipes feel very distinctly new. And we can use the word fusion there, and I don't mind that word at all because it's you. We all are a fusion of our ancestors and our childhood, and then this unique sense of self. I would love to hear how you describe your cuisine.
Well, I've seen fusion almost like as like an intentionality, like thought, like I really love this and I really love this and I want to bring it together, where my cooking is just growing up, one with parents from 2 different countries, and then growing up in California with all this very global food influence. The way I cooked, everything was kind of tethered. And the way I learned cooking was tethered because my first audience, I'm cooking for my family. I'll learn something from my aunt, like one of my dad's sisters, a Nigerian dish. And I then would go replicate that exact same dish for my mom's family, cattle rancher family, and it'd be like a beef dish. And the way the Nigerian dish is made, you pull out the moisture from the beef because like it's, pre-refrigeration recipe so it can preserve. Where I come from, we want meat, we're going to slaughter a cow, and keep it. There are some parts I'll eat raw. So these 2 cultures have friction over like to treat meat. And so I make the food for my mom's family. Like, that stew is great, but never cook beef like that again. So
interesting.
The way I learned how to cook, I had to cherry pick because I'm like cooking for my family. And you want all the moms and you want everyone to be happy. So my foundation of cooking as a kid was just like, I want everyone to like it. And so I also am using what's around me. So the way the food comes out, I guess, seems like a result of fusion, but it really is more authentic. I'm just cooking my house for my family. And some dishes, it would be less authentic for me to untether the two because they've been interwoven my entire cooking life.
So it's interesting because as a kid, your goal in a way, and so much of us as cooks, is to please the people we're cooking for. Has that shifted for you as now you're an adult? That idea of, is your passion for cooking driven by the experience that you get to give the people you cook for? Or is it something that's more individual? And there's no right or wrong answer for this question. I'm just curious.
It's always been for people. I'm like, I'm here by myself. Like, he just left for you. What's for dinner tonight? Olives and whatever piece of cheese is already in route. I am putting very low effort in meals for myself. So it's like cooking for me has always been sharing with first my family. And then in college, I would have dinner parties, Sunday dinner with friends. So the sharing part has always been a huge part of my cooking. Even as a recipe developer, when I first started my first food blog in college, I did it at first because my roommates and people around me were like, oh, that thing you made for dinner, like, how did you do it? And I was like, oh, I can like start sharing this. And it was just kids on campus. Like, oh, I see the photos you post. Like, when are you going to invite me? I'm like, the point is for you to cook it, share the recipe. But as I was oversharing, and I always remember my first comment I got on my blog that was not from someone on campus or someone I knew, was from a man in Australia. And he made one of my recipes for his wife for their anniversary. And he's like, it was great. Thank you for the recipe. And I'm sitting here on campus in my, university bubble, forgetting that the internet reaches across the globe.
Yeah.
And when this person took the time to share their experience and to thank me for the recipe, it really unlocked of like, oh, there is a tool where I can share my food with more people. Through recipe writing, I can't go feed everyone, but here's another outlet to do it. And that's what really got me excited about recipe writing, was that interaction of learning that, okay, I can still share, but the sharing is core. Because me and myself, gosh, I would have nothing to even write about. I don't eat anything from myself.
I love that. I want to get into your recipes because, sometimes we pick up a cookbook and it's interesting. I picked up your book and it was like, oh my gosh, somehow, even though you're using different flavors than I use, I see myself in these recipes because your style is so approachable. Like, the recipes themselves don't have a lot of ingredients, but they are so flavorful. And that to me is kind of what I hope I can provide as well, is like a lot of flavor, but also make it approachable and make it fairly simple. How do you approach writing recipes? I might have just maybe spoken your philosophy, but
it very much is. And it was a huge intentionality with AfriCali because, and this really came about from, I started my career at Tasty, which had a really, still does, but had such a wide net of publishing. And anytime I would put anything remotely African on there, people were like, double take, because there's so few African recipes published, period. Doesn't matter where. It's just holistically, there's less. So people aren't used to it. And I started seeing a pattern where if the food is international, people have like a word association game. They're like, oh, is it going to be harder? Do I have time? I'm going to be able to find the ingredients. They're all this like, rhetoric of barrier.
Yeah.
And so simple, easy, domestic, difficult, foreign. And I'm thinking back at, my mom shoving whatever in the stove and my grandma cooking for literally an army of children. Their cooking has never been complicated. Well, I'm like, if you want new, fresh, simple recipes, we have a whole continent of stuff for you to play with. And so it's very intentional with AfriCali to make sure the recipes are curated to be ingredients you can either find at literally whatever grocery store is next to you.
Yeah.
And then there might be a couple spices and things that I know you can next day have delivered to your doorstep. And I tested this out. My best friend, her family's from rural Michigan. And I was at her house and I needed an Ethiopian spice blend bibide to cook a dish for her family. And I was like, this is perfect to find out. In this middle of nowhere house in the sticks, can I get the ingredient? Ordered it. It was there on the doorstep the very next morning.
Yeah.
That's the time we live in. So the ingredients were curated to be stuff you could find easily. But I do believe that cooking should be as simple as possible, with one caveat where you should never sacrifice flavor for simplicity. So I try to strip it down, but there is a threshold I will not cross.
Yes.
And that's blandness.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the joy, I think, for people like you and I who have been drawn to cooking our whole lives. It's the flavor. And it's interesting because it's not for me spending hours in the kitchen, even though I have friends who are not in the food world, although this is probably why they want to spend 3 days making ramen broth. And that's a beautiful thing for them. But that is not what I want to do with my time.
It'd never be me.
No, it would never be me. Okay. So we are heading into summer, and I feel like when it comes to simplicity, summer is such a beautiful time to remind us that so much flavor, so much joy can come from the simple moments. I'd love to hear some of the recipes you're looking forward to making, or maybe even, recipe might even be too big of a word here. Like some of the things that you look forward to assembling or dishes that you look forward to preparing in the summer. And I know you're in California, so you have a different sense of this. Just to give you reference, it is like Memorial Day weekend this weekend, and it is currently 50 degrees and raining and so cold here in the Hudson Valley of New York. So summer is something I have to dream about right now, hardcore.
I did 6 years on the East Coast for school. So I know the life. You really appreciate summer once you go through a New England winter and upstate New York winter.
Yes.
It is brutal. But I think for me, summer cooking, because summer, in theory, you should be outside a lot. It's not a season to burrow into your house. So I'm like, if you're doing a household drive-by where it's like, I should reasonably save some money and go home for lunch, I think the best thing you can do for your summer cooking is to make 2 things and keep them in your house. You can do it like probably twice the whole summer, which is to make spice blends and to make sauces. And put them in the fridge or portion them small and freeze your sauces. But those are the 2 things that are going to make everything delicious. Doesn't matter what it is, especially if you're on the grill. There's a chili lemon seasoning that they use in the coast of Kenya for grilled stuff. So like if you're on the beach, there'll be some like guys on the end with like grills, and they'll have different veggies on the grill. And when you buy it, they'll put this chili lemon seasoning on it. And it's so easy to make. It's kind of like tahini, but I think tahini is more lime. But I just have a big container of it. And I've been putting it on grilled sweet potatoes, which is how it's in the book. But recently, we just did a pop-up. We did on grilled corn, did the corn birds, ordered them. Didn't even have to put butter. It's the first time I've ever not buttered corn. I just did olive oil and that seasoning. And it's that thing where you're kind of dabbing it and licking it off the plate. It's so addictively good. And having a good grill rub. In Nigeria, there's a dish called suya, which are typically made with beef, like really, really thin beef that's heavily coated in this grill rub, which is peanuts and chili and ginger. And when you read the ingredient list, like onion powder, garlic, it's stuff that you most certainly have in your pantry. If anything, you're just buying the peanuts. You just chuck it all in the blender, pulse it up, and that on any meat. We just had it last night on some lamb skewers. Just have some sprouts, have some spice blend, just delicious things you can put on whatever.
Yeah.
Put it on the grill and drizzle it with olive oil when it comes off.
This is the best tip, you guys. You listen to this, spice blends and sauces, because that will transform anything. My listeners know like sauces are a core part of my repertoire, easy, no cook sauces. In fact, I'm just in the process downstairs of whipping up a big batch of romesco for this weekend, just because I don't even know how I'm going to use it yet. I just know that it'll transform whatever it is we grill. But those two things, you can grill anything and still have a dynamic experience. And if you make these things ahead of time, they're already there for you, waiting. What are some of the sauces that you love?
Oh, especially when you talk about no cook. I've been calling it Kijani goddess. Kijani is Swahili for the word green. So it's like an East African take on a green goddess where it's cilantro, chilies, garlic, lemon, but I put a little bit of curry powder in it. And then you put yogurt, olive oil, and just blend it. And that on salad, that with the corn, as if the flavors aren't enough. I've been dipping the corn in it too.
Yeah.
Zucchini. I love a grilled zucchini.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big one. And then I made a big batch of my spicy tomato jam.
Tell us about that.
So I initially made this recipe. It's like one of my first recipes I ever made, and it's just stuck with me as a condiment for burgers. It's all the things that you would put on a burger, but like usually slip and slide, tomatoes, onions, it's your ketchup because it has brown sugar in it. But I put some just red chili flakes. Doesn't have to be fancy. It's red pepper flakes, lemon juice, and you just let it cook down until it's nothing. And now I've been blending it because I've been using it as a dipping sauce for anything deeply savory. We had some beef samosas we put it with. But just like on any sandwich, burgers, hot dogs, it's so good. Because I feel like sometimes ketchup, you feel a bit like, am I eating like a child right now? Right now. But, you usually need another friend along with it.
Yeah.
With tomato jam is just so much deeper, so much more dynamic. It works as a solo condiment. You don't need to go with the whole suite after that.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's a great reminder for people for these sauces, for whether it's tomato jam, some sort of aioli-based sauce, yogurt-based sauce. We can think of them as sauces to go on to grilled meats and fish and vegetables, but we can also think of them as dips or as like for the romesco. Sometimes what I do with that is serve it over grilled bread with maybe a slather of goat cheese or feta and then that romesco sauce on top. Or with sandwiches, like any of these things on a burger or on a sandwich, they're going to transform, just like a regular old cheeseburger into something really special.
Oh, as soon as you talked about romesco, I just there's a place by me that makes the best ciabatta. And I was like that on a ciabatta and some grilled eggplant and just steam them out of arugula.
Yes, please. What about summer desserts? Are you a baker? What is your philosophy around sweets?
Big baker. Probably, after the book, I have to recount, but before my cookbook, I think a majority of my published recipes were baked goods. Big baker. My mom used to tell me, oh, your desserts are the best thing you do. And I took this insult. I'm like, what about everything else? She was like, the rest is caught up now, but the desserts were better first. Summer dessert, it is in the book. I call it a passion fruit and lime pie. I now have named it our public menu car pie because I'm trying really hard to name recipes. We got in the habit culturally of recipe titles are just long descriptions.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true.
It's like being a name.
Yeah.
But this pie, essentially it's a key lime pie, but 3 parts passion fruit pulp, 1 part lime juice. And passion fruit, for whatever reason, is crazy expensive this year. But so many brands, I think because of the popularity of smoothies, are now selling passion fruit frozen, the pulp frozen, and it's so much cheaper. You get that pulp, you just defrost it, and everything about it, it's the same process as key lime pie, but it's 3 parts passion fruit, 1 part lime. And I've never been a fan of graham crackers, so I use ginger snap instead of graham cracker. But that pie is perfect for summer because it's tart, it's citrusy, yes, you have to turn on your oven, but it's only for 30 minutes max.
Yeah.
And it keeps in your fridge, keeps even better in your freezer. So I usually make a sheet pan version of it, cut it into like little bars. Basically, like they look like lemon bars because they're yellow. And I just keep it in the freezer and they defrost in like 5 minutes.
Having freezer dessert is one of my top tips. Having some sort of cake. And like, I love that tip of yours because I always portion it so that on a Tuesday night, sometimes you just need some special sweet dessert. And if it's already portioned, you can just take out a slice. That's brilliant.
Oh, even if you have company over, just like a friend or two, you don't have to worry about the cake. You just pull those 2 slices out the fridge, and it seems like, oh, really did a lot for us. I'm like,
right. It was like, I'm always like, my future self is going to be so happy with this choice right now. Like future Nikki is going to be so grateful that you're taking the time to do this.
100%. Cooking things when you don't need them is the best thing you can do for your future self.
You know, I love that tip. And that's something that I haven't talked about before, but we all have moments when we're like in the mood to cook. Whether, today is a rainy, cold day here and I want to get in my kitchen. I want to turn on the lights. I want to turn on some music. And I don't think that enough of us lean into those moments because we're waiting. We're waiting for the reason to cook. But I think it's a really, really smart tip to lean into that. Cook some stuff, the sauces, the spice rubs, the desserts that you can freeze, anything that can go in the freezer for those moments in the future. Like we're having people over on Saturday. And what if I wake up on Saturday and I'm just tired and not really in the mood to cook? So the more I can do while I'm feeling the vibe, while I'm feeling the flow, the better it is.
Oh, I bought a vacuum sealer this year and it has changed everything.
Really? I have yet to get one.
I am so confused of why I haven't owned this thing before. Vacuum sealer I just increased most things by 20% just so I can vac it and pop it in the freezer.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
It's my favorite thing I've ever bought for me.
Well, I have to ask you, this is something that's recently in my past couple of episodes, I've had a lot of talk about the word thriving. I had a woman on who talked about the science of thriving. And I feel like what makes each of us thrive is very individual and very unique. And I've become kind of fascinated with what it is that makes us thrive as people. I know with cooking, you said that it's the cooking for others. That's what is the inspiration. I'm wondering for you, and you can keep this like at a food level or maybe something a little bit different. What are some things in your life that help you thrive?
I think it feels weird, but I think thriving for me has always felt, it is, I guess, a very philosophical thing. I don't know if you can measure it.
No.
But if I could. It's just having the time to do the things that you want to do. And I don't think you can feel like you're thriving if you chronically feel behind or like, it's like, what did I do with my day? But I think if you have space to do the things that you want to do, you have that feeling of thriving. And to do it, you have to just carve it out through. I don't love the solo part of my work. That's why I've been flirting with pop-ups and been doing them because I'm like, I just like being around people. In recipe development, it's a work from home thing unless you're working at, one of the 4 magazines with a test kitchen. So majority of us, it's work from home and, everyone who lives in your home is out to work. And so I've now found a way to do my work, but also bring and see people. And they started this doing the cookbook. I would invite 2 people over, whether they knew each other or not, didn't care. And I'm like, I know they remote work. Like, bring your laptop and treat my dining table as your office for the day. And I'm going to be working on some recipes. We don't really, we'll hang out, we'll talk when we have little breaks, but I really just be here, do your work, and eat the food when I put it in front of you. And that's all I ask.
Can I please come?
It's such a simple, but it has really changed my energy when I have those days and like, oh gosh, I hate recipe testing by myself. It's so boring. And I'm just like, why do I have this solo? It feels empty because of people.
Yeah.
And so even though I'm working, just having that person there and being able to place that plate on the table and pick it back up like an hour later has made every part of this feel so much more like fulfilling. It's like, it's not even published yet. I'm just in the middle of the process, but having and incorporating, people and normalcy into my workspace, because otherwise just be myself, me, has made everything feel so much more uplifting and energetic and excited to do it. And to me, it gives that energy of thriving.
I love that you created that for yourself. You knew yourself well enough to know that it is the sharing of this food, it is the energy of others that energizes you. And so you created that experience of thriving for yourself. And I feel like maybe that's the message that I want to hone in, is we have to do this for ourselves. Your experience of that is going to look very different from even what my experience of thriving looks like. But unless we pay attention enough to know what gives us that sense of buoyancy and energy and take action to give that to ourselves, then we're just going to stay in the same patterns that maybe we've been in for a very long time.
Yeah. No, it's so much more fun. And I think people are finding little ways to like tack on, and like I heard like folks are like running errands with friends, and it's not about, getting together around these big moments.
Yeah.
And I think culturally across the board, I think folks just need to see people whenever. It doesn't need to be like a big organized to-do production in your calendar 3 weeks out.
Yeah. Oh, what a reminder.
Just come over.
Yeah. Just that connection. That's everything, right? Thank you so much. I feel like I want to end there because I want everyone to leave and like simmer on that a little bit. I have no doubt everybody who has listened is inspired by summer opportunities for cooking. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple, but so flavorful. And to really think about what makes you thrive and to give yourself that. I'm going to close out with one last question. First of all, I'm going to tell everybody to go seek out your book, AfriCali. I love it. And I'm going to be featuring a recipe from the book in the newsletter. So hop over there. I'll also be sure to link to all of the things. But my last question is, if it was your last meal on earth in this moment, what would it be?
I like the in this moment caveat.
Yes.
It changes.
Yes.
The first thing that came to my mind was fried sweet plantain. It is always, I don't really do favorites, but I have never wavered in my love for it. I love to off the gate. It's on the plate, and I need more than those 2 slices they give you at the restaurant.
Oh, please. Please.
It's a tease. And like a really well-seared steak. Like I need a good salty crust on it.
Yes.
And a sauce with it too. I like anything in that chimichurri world will do. Anything, I don't really care what else comes with it. And as long as I have steak and plantain, I think I'll be pretty happy.
That sounds pretty amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a joy speaking with you.
Thank you. Yeah, this was fun.
Thank you so much for listening. If this work resonates with you in any way, you can support it by leaving a review or comment or sharing it with friends. Also, you can sign up for the newsletter, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. And by becoming a paid member for just $5 a month, you help fund this entire project. Thank you so much to all of you who are already subscribed, especially to those paid subscribers. This work could not happen without you. I'm Nikki Sizemore, and as always, remember to nourish yourself with intention and love.